Welcome to Stoic Vivu, where ancient wisdom meets modern life. I'm here to help you discover how the timeless philosophy of Stoicism can transform your daily experience and build unshakable inner strength. At Stoic Vivu, our mission is simple yet profound: to make the practical wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus accessible to everyone navigating the complexities of contemporary life. Whether you're dealing with workplace stress in Manhattan, relationship challenges in Los Angeles, or simply trying to find peace in our chaotic digital world, the Stoics have already walked this path and left us a roadmap. Today, we're diving into something that could completely change how you approach each day. 8 transformative habits that the ancient Stoics practiced to achieve remarkable mental clarity, emotional resilience, and genuine fulfillment. These aren't just philosophical concepts. They're practical daily actions that you can start implementing immediately. Imagine having a simple morning practice that eliminates anxiety before it starts. Picture yourself with a pre-task routine that guarantees you'll always perform at your best. Envision daily exercises that free you from any destructive pattern and help you adapt effortlessly to any change life brings. The Stoics discovered something remarkable. True transformation doesn't come from changing your external circumstances. It comes from changing your daily habits of thinking and acting. They understood that we can't control what happens to us, but we have complete control over our daily practices and responses. Marcus Aurelius, while leading the Roman Empire through plague and war, maintained specific daily habits that kept him centered and effective. Epictetus, who lived as a slave before becoming one of philosophy's greatest teachers, developed practical exercises that anyone could use to maintain inner freedom. Seneca, managing the pressures of wealth and political power, created daily routines that generated genuine satisfaction independent of external circumstances. These 8 habits we're exploring today aren't abstract theories. They're battle-tested daily practices that helped these remarkable individuals thrive under extraordinary pressure. Each habit is designed to be simple enough to start today, yet powerful enough to create lasting transformation. From asking yourself what you control versus what you don't control each morning, to practicing letting go of yesterday's burdens each evening, every habit gives you concrete actions you can take immediately. You'll discover the one question to ask before every task that guarantees excellence. Learn how to give yourself orders like a military commander, and master the daily practice of acting today instead of waiting for tomorrow. The beauty of these habits lies in their simplicity and their compound effect. Start with just one, practice it consistently for a week, and you'll begin to notice changes not just in how you feel, but in how you show up in the world. Add another habit, then another, and watch as your entire relationship with life transforms. This isn't about perfection, it's about progress through daily practice. The Stoics were practical people who understood that wisdom means nothing without consistent application. Today, you're going to learn exactly how to apply their most powerful daily practices to create lasting change in your modern life. Let's begin this transformation journey together with the first foundational habit that the Stoics used every single morning. Habit 1. Ask yourself what you control versus don't control. Imagine starting every morning with a simple 5-minute practice that could eliminate 90% of your daily stress and anxiety. This isn't wishful thinking. It's exactly what Marcus Aurelius did every day as he managed the pressures of ruling the Roman Empire. And it's the foundational habit that transformed how the Stoics approached every challenge in their lives. The habit is deceptively simple. Before you get out of bed, before you check your phone, before you start planning your day, ask yourself one crucial question about everything on your mind. Is this something I control or something I don't control? Let's walk through how this works in practice. You wake up in your apartment in Brooklyn, and immediately your mind starts racing. You're thinking about today's presentation at work, your mother's health concerns, the argument you had with your partner last night, your financial situation, and whether your boss appreciated the project you submitted yesterday. Your chest tightens, your breathing becomes shallow, and you haven't even gotten out of bed yet. This is where most people make a critical mistake. They try to solve all these concerns at once, or they tell themselves to stop worrying, which never works. But the Stoic approach is completely different and remarkably effective. Instead of fighting your thoughts, you simply categorize them. Take that work presentation. Ask yourself, what do I control about this presentation? You control your preparation level, your knowledge of the material, your speaking pace, and your professional demeanor. Write those down mentally or physically. Then ask, what don't I control? You don't control the audience's mood, technical difficulties, interruptions, or how your boss will react. Acknowledge these factors and mentally set them aside. Do this with every concern on your mind. Your mother's health? You control staying in touch, offering support, and encouraging good medical care. You don't control her diagnosis, her treatment outcomes, or her choices about her own health. The argument with your partner? You control your willingness to listen, your honesty about your feelings, and your commitment to resolution. You don't control their mood, their response, or their timeline for working through issues. Marcus Aurelius practiced this habit so consistently that it became second nature. In his personal journal, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He understood that most human suffering comes from trying to control things that are completely outside our influence while neglecting the things we can actually change. The power of this habit lies in what happens next. Once you've clearly identified what you control, you can direct all your mental and emotional energy toward those factors. Instead of lying in bed worrying about your boss's reaction to your presentation, you get up and spend that time reviewing your notes. Instead of anxiously texting your mother asking how she feels, you research helpful resources you can share with her. This isn't about becoming cold or uncaring. It's about becoming incredibly effective. When you stop wasting energy on uncontrollable factors, you have dramatically more power to influence the things that actually matter. Consider James, a project manager in Seattle who transformed his entire work experience with this single habit. He used to arrive at the office every morning already stressed about client reactions, team dynamics, and management decisions, none of which he controlled. After adopting this daily practice, he started each day by identifying what he could control: his communication clarity, his project planning, his support for team members, and his own professional development. The change was immediate and dramatic. Instead of spending his commute worrying about potential problems, he used that time planning how to excel in his controllable areas. His stress levels dropped significantly, his performance improved, and his colleagues started viewing him as the calm, reliable leader who stayed focused on solutions rather than problems. Seneca, who managed enormous business and political pressures, discovered that this practice creates what he called tranquillitas, a deep inner calm that remains stable regardless of external circumstances. He wrote, "Nothing, to my way of thinking, is a better proof of a well-ordered mind than a man's ability to stop just where he is and pass some time in his own company. Here's how to implement this habit starting tomorrow morning. Before getting out of bed, spend 5 minutes running through everything on your mind for the day ahead. For each item, ask, what specifically do I control about this? And what specifically don't I control about this? Be very precise. Don't say, I control my relationship. Say, I control my listening skills, my honesty, and my kindness. You can also practice this habit during stressful moments throughout the day. Stuck in traffic? You control your breathing, your music choice, and your arrival phone call to explain the delay. You don't control the traffic flow, other drivers, or your boss's reaction. Waiting for medical test results? You control following up appropriately and maintaining healthy habits. You don't control the results or the timeline. The ancient Stoics called this principle the dichotomy of control, and they considered it the foundation of all wisdom and peace. Epictetus, who understood powerlessness intimately from his years as a slave, taught that true freedom comes not from controlling external circumstances, but from clearly understanding what is and isn't within our power. This daily practice rewires your brain in profound ways. Instead of feeling like a victim of circumstances, you begin to feel like the director of your own experience. Instead of scattered anxiety about everything, you develop focused energy for the things that actually matter. Instead of hoping external situations will change to make you happy, you build happiness from factors entirely within your control. The beautiful paradox is that when you stop trying to control everything, you become much more effective at influencing the things that matter most. People naturally trust and follow those who remain calm under pressure and focus on solutions rather than problems. With this foundation of mental clarity established through daily practice, we can now explore the next habit that will transform how you approach every task and challenge in your life. Habit 2. Ask, did I do my best? Before every task. Picture yourself about to send an important email to your team in downtown Denver. You've written it quickly between meetings, and it covers all the necessary points. It's adequate, professional, and gets the job done. Most people would hit send and move on to the next task. But what if you paused for just 10 seconds and asked yourself one simple question that could transform not just this email, but your entire approach to life? That question is, did I do my best with this? This habit comes from a profound realization that the ancient Stoics discovered. Excellence isn't about being perfect or always winning. Excellence is about giving your complete effort to whatever you're doing, regardless of how big or small the task might seem. And here's the remarkable thing. Your effort level is one of the few things in life that you control absolutely. The power of this question was illustrated perfectly in a story about a young naval officer interviewing for a prestigious position. After discussing his impressive grades and accomplishments, the interviewer asked him directly, "But did you always do your best?" The candidate had to answer honestly, "No, I guess I didn't always do my best." The interviewer's response was devastating in its simplicity. "Why not?" Then he left the room. That question haunted the young officer for the rest of his life, and it should haunt all of us. Why don't we always give our best? Why do we settle for good enough when excellence is entirely within our control? Epictetus understood this principle deeply. As someone who transformed from slave to renowned teacher, he knew that while we can't control outcomes, recognition, or results, we absolutely control the effort we bring to each moment. He taught that this distinction changes everything about how we experience life. Let's examine how this habit works in practice. Before starting any task, writing an email, having a conversation with your spouse, preparing a meal, exercising at the gym, pause and set an intention. I'm going to give my best effort to this. Not, I'm going to make this perfect or I'm going to guarantee success. But simply, I'm going to bring excellence to this moment. Consider Sarah, a high school teacher in Phoenix who transformed her entire career by implementing this single habit. She used to prepare lessons hastily during her lunch break, grade papers while watching television, and manage classroom discussions with minimal engagement. Her students were restless, her job felt draining, and she questioned whether teaching was right for her. Then she started asking herself before every activity, am I about to give my best to this? The change was immediate and dramatic. When she prepared lessons with full attention, creating engaging activities and thoughtful discussion questions, her students became genuinely excited about learning. When she graded papers thoughtfully, providing meaningful feedback and encouragement, student performance improved significantly. When she brought genuine presence to classroom interactions, even the most challenging students began to respond positively. Within 6 months, Sarah went from dreading work to feeling energized by the impact she was making. Her students' test scores improved, but more importantly, she developed a deep sense of professional pride and personal satisfaction that no external recognition could match. The beautiful thing about this approach is that excellence becomes its own reward. When you consistently give your best effort, you develop what Marcus Aurelius called internal satisfaction. A deep sense of pride that comes from knowing you've done everything within your power, regardless of how things turn out. This doesn't mean becoming obsessive or perfectionist. The Stoics were practical people who understood the crucial difference between excellence and perfectionism. Excellence means bringing your full attention and effort to what you're doing right now. Perfectionism means torturing yourself about outcomes you can't control. Here's how to apply this practically throughout your day. Before answering the phone, ask, can I give my best attention to this conversation? Before starting a workout, ask, can I bring my best effort to this exercise? Before tucking your children into bed, ask, can I give my best presence to this bedtime routine? The question works equally well for challenging situations. Before entering a difficult meeting with your boss in Chicago, ask, can I bring my best communication and professionalism to this interaction? You can't control your boss's mood or decisions, but you can absolutely control the quality of your participation. Seneca, despite managing enormous wealth and political responsibilities, found his greatest satisfaction not in outcomes he couldn't control, but in the knowledge that he had applied himself fully to each challenge. He wrote, every moment is a fresh beginning. When you give your best to each task, you're constantly creating new possibilities for growth and impact. The compound effect of this approach is extraordinary. When you consistently ask this question and act on it, you build what psychologists call internal locus of control. The deep knowledge that your life quality depends primarily on your choices and efforts, not on external circumstances or other people's actions. This creates a powerful upward spiral. The more you practice giving your best, the more capable and confident you become. The more capable you become, the more you're able to handle larger challenges and opportunities. Excellence doesn't just improve your performance. It transforms your entire relationship with work, relationships, and life itself. Think about the last time you half-heartedly completed a task versus the last time you gave something your complete attention and effort. Which experience left you feeling more satisfied, energized, and proud? The answer is obvious, yet most people consistently choose the path of minimal effort and then wonder why they feel unfulfilled. The ancient Stoics realized that mediocrity is always a choice. You might not control whether you succeed, whether others appreciate your efforts, or whether you achieve your desired outcomes. But you absolutely control whether you show up fully to each moment, each task, and each opportunity. This realization becomes the foundation for both personal satisfaction and professional success. When you're known as someone who consistently gives their best effort, opportunities naturally flow toward you. People trust you with important responsibilities because they know you'll handle them with care and excellence. With this excellence mindset now established as a daily practice, we can explore the next habit that will give you complete command over your actions and decisions. Habit 3. Give yourself orders like a military commander. Visualize this scenario. It's 10 a.m. on a Tuesday morning in Miami, and you're walking through your neighborhood when you suddenly feel an intense craving for something that you know isn't good for you. Maybe it's the urge to check social media for the 20th time today, or the pull to buy something you don't need, or the desire to skip your workout and binge watch television instead. Most people would either give in to the impulse or struggle against it with willpower alone. But what if you could respond like a disciplined military commander who simply issues a clear, decisive order? This is exactly what the ancient Stoics practiced, and it's one of the most powerful habits for achieving true personal freedom. The habit is straightforward. When faced with any destructive impulse or beneficial action you're avoiding, give yourself a direct, non-negotiable command and execute it immediately. The inspiration for this approach comes from understanding what real freedom actually means. Seneca, who lived among the wealthy and powerful of Rome, observed something remarkable. Everyone is a slave to something. He saw people who were legally free and politically powerful, yet completely controlled by their appetites, emotions, and impulses. Meanwhile, he knew individuals like Epictetus who had lived as actual slaves but possessed true inner freedom because they commanded their own actions. This insight reveals a profound truth. You're either in command of yourself or something else is commanding you. There's no middle ground. Every moment, you're either the general of your own life or you're taking orders from your impulses, habits, fears, and external pressures. Consider the story of a brilliant physicist who was out for a morning walk when he felt an unexpected urge to drink alcohol. He had never struggled with alcoholism and didn't consider himself someone with addiction issues, but he was deeply uncomfortable with this sudden compulsion to do something driven by a part of himself that he didn't control. The experience forced him to confront a crucial question. Who's really in charge here? This is the same question that led to one of the most powerful examples of self-command in modern history. A military leader who had smoked 4 packs of cigarettes daily for 40 years was told by his doctor that smoking was seriously damaging his health. Instead of making promises, setting gradual goals, or negotiating with himself, he did something remarkable. He said, "I gave myself an order to stop smoking," and he quit completely that very moment. The key insight here is that he didn't try to convince himself, motivate himself, or gradually reduce his smoking. He simply issued a command and obeyed it, just as he would obey any other military order. He understood that the moment you start negotiating with destructive impulses, you've already given them power over you. Here's how this habit works in daily practice. When you notice yourself about to engage in any behavior that doesn't serve your highest good, pause and issue yourself a clear, direct command. Instead of thinking, "I really shouldn't check Instagram right now," say firmly to yourself, "Put the phone down now." Instead of, "I should probably go to the gym," command yourself, "Get your workout clothes on and head to the gym immediately." The language matters enormously. Weak language like, "I should," "I need to," or "maybe I'll" gives your resistance room to negotiate. Strong command language like, "I will," "Do this now," or "This is non-negotiable" cuts through hesitation and creates immediate action. Lisa, a marketing executive in Portland, transformed her morning routine using this exact approach. She used to hit the snooze button multiple times, check her phone in bed, and start each day feeling behind and reactive. Instead of trying to motivate herself with inspirational quotes or gradual changes, she started giving herself direct commands. Feet on the floor now. Phone stays on the nightstand. Meditation starts immediately. The transformation was immediate. By treating herself like a disciplined soldier following orders, she eliminated the internal debate that had previously consumed her willpower. She went from someone who struggled with basic morning routines to someone who started each day with energy, focus, and a sense of personal mastery. This approach works because it recognizes a fundamental truth about human psychology. Decision-making consumes mental energy, but following clear commands preserves it. When you give yourself a direct order, you bypass the exhausting internal negotiations that drain your willpower throughout the day. Epictetus understood this principle deeply. Despite having lived as a slave, he became one of history's most respected teachers of freedom because he learned to command himself completely. He taught that true liberty doesn't come from external circumstances. It comes from your ability to direct your own thoughts, emotions, and actions regardless of what's happening around you. The practice becomes especially powerful during challenging moments. When you're facing a difficult conversation at work in Dallas, instead of allowing anxiety to control your preparation, command yourself, "Prepare thoroughly for this meeting now." When you're tempted to stay up late scrolling through social media, order yourself, "Phone goes in the other room." Bedtime routine starts immediately. Marcus Aurelius used this approach to manage the enormous pressures of ruling an empire. In his personal journal, he would give himself direct instructions. Get up and do your work. Focus on what's in front of you. Don't waste time on things you can't control. These weren't suggestions or motivational thoughts. They were commands that he expected himself to follow without question. The beautiful paradox of this habit is that by becoming more disciplined with yourself, you actually become more free. When you know you can rely on yourself to follow through on beneficial decisions, you stop being controlled by impulses, other people's expectations, or external circumstances. You become what the Stoics called inner-directed rather than outer-directed. This doesn't mean becoming rigid or harsh with yourself. The best military commanders combine firmness with wisdom, knowing when to push and when to show strategic flexibility. The goal isn't perfection. It's developing the muscle of self-command that serves you in every area of life. Building on this foundation of self-command, we can now explore the next habit that will transform how you respond to the constant changes and disruptions that define modern life. Habit 4. Practice seeing change as natural and necessary. Set the scene. You arrive at your office in downtown San Francisco on Monday morning to discover that your company is implementing a major software system overhaul that will completely change how you do your job. Your initial reaction might be frustration, anxiety, or resistance. Most people would spend the week complaining about the disruption and longing for the way things used to be. But what if you had a daily practice that could transform this exact scenario from a source of stress into an opportunity for growth? This is precisely what Marcus Aurelius practiced every single day as he managed the Roman Empire through wars, plagues, and constant political upheaval. His daily habit was deceptively simple yet profoundly powerful. Each morning, he would remind himself that change is not the enemy of a good life. It's the very source of all good things that could possibly come his way. The habit involves a fundamental shift in how you perceive change. Instead of seeing disruption as something that happens to you, you practice viewing it as the natural flow of life that brings both challenges and opportunities. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you train yourself to ask, "How can I use this change to become stronger, wiser, or more effective?" Marcus Aurelius wrote in his personal journal, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." He understood something that most people miss. Every good thing that has ever happened in your life came through change. Your education, your relationships, your career opportunities, your personal growth. All of it required leaving behind old circumstances and embracing new ones. Consider Jennifer, a financial advisor in Chicago who initially dreaded the industry's shift toward digital client management. She had built her practice on face-to-face relationships and prided herself on her personal touch. When her firm announced mandatory digital platform training, her first impulse was to resist and complain about losing the human element of her work. Instead of fighting the change, she decided to practice this Stoic habit. Each morning, she would remind herself, "This change is natural and necessary. What opportunities might it create?" She began to see that digital tools could actually enhance her personal relationships with clients by giving her more data to provide customized advice. She discovered that video calls allowed her to connect with clients who previously couldn't meet during business hours. Within 6 months, her practice had grown significantly, and she had developed expertise that set her apart from competitors who were still resisting the technological shift. The key to this practice is understanding that resistance to change requires enormous mental and emotional energy that could be redirected toward adaptation and growth. When you spend your days wishing things were different, complaining about new circumstances, or trying to recreate past conditions, you're essentially fighting against the fundamental nature of reality itself. This doesn't mean passively accepting everything that happens. The Stoics were active, engaged people who worked hard to influence their circumstances. But they understood the crucial difference between adapting skillfully to change and exhausting themselves through futile resistance to inevitable transitions. Here's how to implement this habit in your daily life. Each morning, identify any changes or transitions you're currently facing. Whether it's a new boss, a relationship shift, a health challenge, or a technology upgrade. Instead of immediately thinking about what you're losing or what's difficult about the situation, ask yourself, what could this change make possible that wasn't possible before? Maybe your favorite restaurant closed down, forcing you to explore new dining options that lead to discovering an amazing cuisine you never would have tried. Perhaps a friendship ended, creating space for new relationships that are more aligned with who you're becoming. Your old job was eliminated, pushing you toward a career path that better matches your evolving interests and skills. Seneca, who faced exile, political upheaval, and business disruptions throughout his life, developed a powerful perspective on change. He wrote, "Every change of fortune affects either our person or our possessions. A wise man is prepared for either." He practiced viewing each transition as an opportunity to develop new strengths, discover hidden capabilities, or clarify what truly matters most. The practice becomes especially valuable during major life transitions. When you're going through a divorce in Los Angeles, instead of only focusing on what you're losing, you can ask, what kind of person could I become through navigating this challenge with grace? When your aging parents in Miami need more care, instead of only seeing the burden, you can explore, how might this deepen my capacity for compassion and strengthen family bonds? This habit also transforms how you handle smaller daily disruptions. When your commute is delayed by construction, instead of fuming about the inconvenience, you can practice gratitude for the infrastructure improvements that will benefit your community. When technology glitches disrupt your workflow, you can use the pause to reassess your priorities or connect with colleagues you normally don't have time to chat with. Marcus Aurelius faced some of the most challenging changes imaginable: military conflicts, natural disasters, political betrayals, and personal losses. Yet he maintained remarkable equanimity by practicing this daily reminder that change is not only natural but necessary for growth, renewal, and the emergence of new possibilities. The ancient Stoics understood that the people who thrive in life aren't those who experience the least change, but those who become most skillful at dancing with change when it comes. They saw that flexibility and adaptability are not signs of weakness but demonstrations of wisdom and strength. This perspective creates a profound shift in your relationship with uncertainty. Instead of needing to know exactly how things will unfold, you develop confidence in your ability to handle whatever changes arise. Instead of trying to control external circumstances, you focus on controlling your response to those circumstances. In essence, you begin to see yourself not as a victim of change, but as a partner with change. You stop asking life to be predictable and start asking yourself to be adaptable. This shift alone can transform stress into excitement, obstacles into opportunities, and disruptions into doorways to growth. With this foundation of change mastery established, we can now explore the next habit that will help you align your daily actions with your deepest values and highest principles. Habit 5. Choose your values and stand by them daily. Imagine you're in a team meeting at your company in Atlanta, and your manager is pressuring everyone to agree with a decision that you know will harm your customers. The room is silent, colleagues are avoiding eye contact, and you feel the weight of potential consequences if you speak up. Most people would either go along to avoid conflict or stay silent to protect their position. But what if you had a daily practice that made moments like this crystal clear? A habit that helped you act with courage and integrity regardless of external pressures. This is exactly the kind of situation where the Stoics practiced their most important daily habit: choosing their values each morning and committing to live by them regardless of what the day might bring. They understood that without clear, consciously chosen principles, people drift through life making decisions based on convenience, fear, or social pressure rather than what they know is right. The habit works like this. Each morning, before the pressures and distractions of the day begin, spend 5 minutes clarifying what you stand for and recommitting to acting from those principles. This isn't about creating an elaborate moral philosophy. It's about identifying the 3 to 5 core values that define who you want to be and how you want to show up in the world. Marcus Aurelius practiced this religiously. Even while managing the complexities of ruling an empire, he would begin each day by reminding himself of fundamental principles: justice, courage, wisdom, and self-discipline. These weren't abstract concepts to him. They were practical guidelines that shaped every decision, from how he treated his servants to how he responded to military threats. The power of this habit becomes clear when you contrast it with how most people make decisions. Without clear values, you're constantly reacting to circumstances, other people's expectations, and immediate pressures. You might be honest when it's convenient, courageous when the stakes are low, or kind when you're in a good mood. But when real challenges arise, when honesty might cost you something, when courage requires sacrifice, or when kindness demands effort, you have no reliable foundation for action. Consider David, a sales manager in Denver who transformed his career by implementing this daily practice. He used to make decisions based on short-term gains, office politics, and what would make his life easier. He would promise clients things he wasn't sure his team could deliver, avoid difficult conversations with underperforming employees, and take credit for successes while deflecting blame for failures. Everything changed when he started each day by clarifying his core values: integrity, fairness, and excellence. Instead of asking, "What's the easiest path?" or "What will make me look good?" he began asking, "What would integrity look like in this situation? And how can I act fairly toward everyone involved?" The transformation was remarkable. His client relationships deepened because customers trusted his honest assessments. His team's performance improved because he addressed problems directly while supporting people's growth. His reputation within the company shifted from politically savvy to genuinely trustworthy. Within 2 years, he was promoted to regional manager specifically because leadership knew they could count on his judgment and character. The ancient Stoics identified 4 cardinal virtues that serve as an excellent foundation for this practice: wisdom, making good decisions based on truth; justice, treating others fairly and fulfilling your obligations; courage, acting rightly despite fear or difficulty; and temperance, exercising self-control and moderation. These aren't restrictive rules, they're liberating principles that simplify decision-making and create deep personal satisfaction. Here's how to implement this habit starting tomorrow morning. Before checking your phone or planning your day, ask yourself, what do I stand for? What kind of person do I want to be today? Then identify specific situations where your values might be tested and commit to acting from principle rather than convenience. Maybe you know you'll face pressure to cut corners on a project. Remind yourself that you value excellence and integrity, and commit to doing quality work regardless of time pressures. Perhaps you're dealing with a difficult family situation that tempts you to avoid uncomfortable conversations. Reconnect with your values of honesty and courage, and plan to address issues directly with compassion. Epictetus, who understood powerlessness intimately from his years as a slave, taught that values are the one thing that can never be taken from you. External circumstances might force you to lose your job, your possessions, or even your freedom, but no one can make you abandon your principles without your consent. This realization provides enormous strength during challenging times. The practice becomes especially powerful during moral gray areas where the right choice isn't immediately obvious. When you're considering whether to report a colleague's unethical behavior, Your values of justice and courage provide clear guidance even when the situation is politically complicated. When you're tempted to exaggerate your qualifications for a job opportunity, your commitment to honesty helps you find ways to present your genuine strengths compellingly without deception. Seneca, who navigated the treacherous waters of Roman politics while maintaining his integrity, discovered that living by clear values actually makes life easier, not harder. When you know what you stand for, decisions become simpler because you're not constantly weighing competing desires and pressures. You have a reliable internal compass that points toward right action. This doesn't mean becoming rigid or judgmental toward others. The Stoics practiced what they called sympatheia, the understanding that all humans are connected and struggling with similar challenges. Your commitment to your values should increase your compassion for others, not your tendency to criticize them. The habit also creates what psychologists call moral courage, the ability to act rightly even when it's difficult or costly. The more you practice choosing your values daily and following through with aligned actions, the stronger this moral muscle becomes. You develop confidence that you can handle whatever consequences arise from doing the right thing. Furthermore, this practice attracts like-minded people into your life while naturally filtering out relationships based on convenience rather than mutual respect. When you consistently act from clear principles, others know what to expect from you and can decide whether they want to engage with someone of genuine character. Building on this foundation of value-driven living, we can now explore the next habit that will free you from the exhausting cycle of seeking external validation and recognition. Habit 6. Focus on your effort, not others' recognition. Consider this scenario. You've just finished organizing a company-wide training program in Boston that significantly improved your team's performance and saved your organization thousands of dollars. You put in countless extra hours, coordinated with multiple departments, and created materials that people are still using months later. But when the quarterly meeting arrives, your manager barely mentions your contribution and gives extensive praise to a colleague for a much smaller project. Your first instinct might be frustration, resentment, or the urge to point out the oversight. But what if you had a daily practice that made this situation completely powerless to disturb your peace or motivation? This is exactly what Marcus Aurelius trained himself to do through one of the most liberating habits in all of Stoic philosophy. Focusing entirely on your effort and contribution while releasing all attachment to external recognition, praise, or reward. He called this avoiding the third thing, the destructive habit of doing good work and then immediately looking for acknowledgement, credit, or compensation in return. The habit works through a simple but profound daily practice. Before starting any project, task, or interaction, remind yourself that your goal is to give your best effort and make a positive contribution. The quality of your work and the integrity of your effort are the only rewards you need or should expect. Everything else, whether people notice, appreciate, understand, or reward your contribution, is completely outside your control and therefore irrelevant to your satisfaction. This doesn't mean being passive or failing to advocate for yourself professionally. It means finding deep fulfillment in excellent work itself rather than making your happiness dependent on other people's reactions to that work. The difference is profound and life-changing. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily while managing responsibilities that affected millions of people. In his private journal, he reminded himself, "When you have done a good deed and another has benefited from it, why do you need a third thing, to be thanked or to be recognized for it?" He understood that seeking external validation for good work actually corrupts the work itself, turning acts of service into transactions where you're always keeping score of what you've given versus what you've received. Think about how this dynamic plays out in your daily life. You help a colleague with a challenging project, then feel resentful when they don't acknowledge your contribution. You go above and beyond for your family, then become frustrated when your efforts seem to go unnoticed. You create something valuable at work, then spend mental energy tracking whether leadership appreciates your innovation. In each case, you've taken satisfying, meaningful work and turned it into a source of frustration by making your fulfillment dependent on external responses. Consider Maria, a nurse in Houston who completely transformed her relationship with work through this practice. She used to feel constantly underappreciated, keeping mental notes of all the extra shifts she covered, the difficult patients she handled with grace, and the improvements she suggested that made everyone's job easier. She would go home exhausted not just from the physical demands of nursing, but from the emotional toll of feeling unseen and undervalued. Everything changed when she started each shift by reminding herself, "My job is to provide excellent patient care and support my colleagues. That's its own reward. Whether anyone notices or thanks me is irrelevant to my satisfaction." The shift was immediate and dramatic. She began finding deep fulfillment in each interaction with patients, each moment of comfort she provided, and each way she made her workplace more effective. Her resentment disappeared, her energy increased, and ironically, her colleagues and supervisors began recognizing her positive attitude and exceptional contributions. The ancient Stoics understood that this practice creates what they called internal locus of satisfaction. Your happiness and motivation come from factors entirely within your control rather than depending on other people's moods, awareness, or appreciation. This is incredibly liberating because it means you never have to feel like a victim of other people's oversight or ingratitude. Here's how to implement this habit starting tomorrow. Before beginning any task, whether it's preparing a presentation, helping your children with homework, or volunteering in your community, set a clear intention. I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do and because I can do it well. The quality of my effort is my only concern. Then, when the task is complete, take a moment to appreciate your own contribution without looking around to see who else noticed. This practice becomes especially powerful in relationships. Instead of keeping score of who called whom last, who planned the last date, or who did more household chores, you focus entirely on being the kind of partner, friend, or family member you want to be. You listen because listening is valuable, not because you expect equal attention in return. You show kindness because kindness is its own reward, not because you're building credit for future consideration. Seneca, who managed enormous wealth and political influence, discovered that this approach actually increases your effectiveness and influence over time. When people know you're not constantly angling for credit or recognition, they trust your motives and value your contributions more highly. When you're focused on excellence rather than appreciation, you naturally do better work that speaks for itself. The habit also protects you from the devastating effects of ingratitude and oversight. We live in a world where good work often goes unnoticed, where credit frequently goes to the wrong people, and where appreciation is inconsistently expressed. If your satisfaction depends on external recognition, you're setting yourself up for constant disappointment and resentment. But when you train yourself to find fulfillment in the work itself, you become immune to these external fluctuations. You can give your best effort to a project that gets canceled, help someone who never thanks you, or create something valuable that others take credit for, and still feel completely satisfied because you know you've acted with integrity and excellence. Epictetus taught that this practice is essential for true freedom. He said that when you need other people's approval or recognition to feel good about yourself, you've made them your master. Your emotional state rises and falls based on their moods, awareness, and decisions. But when you find satisfaction in your own effort and contribution, you maintain complete emotional independence. With this foundation of internal motivation firmly established, we can now explore the next habit that will transform your relationship with time and eliminate the costly pattern of procrastination. Habit 7. Act today instead of waiting for tomorrow. Suppose you're sitting in your apartment in New York City on a Sunday evening, thinking about the difficult conversation you need to have with your business partner, the fitness routine you want to start, or the creative project that's been sitting in your mind for months. Your internal voice says something familiar. I'll start tomorrow. Monday's a better day to begin. I'll be more prepared next week. I'll have more energy after I get through this busy period. Sound familiar? This is the voice that has probably cost you more opportunities, relationships, and personal growth than any external obstacle ever could. The ancient Stoics recognized procrastination as one of the most destructive forces in human life, and they developed a powerful daily habit to combat it. Whenever you identify something important that needs to be done, take immediate action toward it today, even if it's just a small step. They understood that tomorrow is a seductive illusion that keeps you perpetually stuck in preparation mode rather than living mode. Marcus Aurelius captured this perfectly when he wrote, "You could be good today. Instead, you choose tomorrow." This insight cuts to the heart of why people remain stuck for years in situations they could change, relationships they could improve, or goals they could achieve. It's not usually because they lack the capability or resources. It's because they've developed the habit of deferring action to some imaginary future moment when conditions will be perfect. The habit works through a simple but transformative daily practice. Whenever you catch yourself thinking, "I should do that sometime," or "I'll start that next week," immediately identify one concrete action you can take toward that goal today, even if it's just 5 minutes of effort. Then take that action immediately, without negotiation or delay. This approach recognizes a fundamental truth about human psychology. Momentum creates motivation, not the other way around. Most people wait to feel motivated before taking action, but the Stoics understood that action creates the feelings and clarity that you think you need before starting. Consider James, a software developer in Seattle who had been talking about starting his own consulting business for 3 years. He spent countless hours researching the perfect business structure, reading books about entrepreneurship, and planning his ideal client base. He was always almost ready to begin, but there was always one more thing to research, one more skill to develop, or one more detail to perfect. Everything changed when he implemented this Stoic habit. On a Tuesday morning, instead of adding another item to his research list, he asked himself, "What's one action I can take today toward this goal?" His answer was simple. Reach out to one potential client to offer a small project. He sent that email within an hour. By Friday, he had his first consulting client. Within 6 months, he had built enough business to transition from his full-time job. The key insight James discovered is that action provides information and opportunities that no amount of planning can anticipate. He learned more about running a consulting business in his first month of actual work than in his previous 3 years of research and preparation. Seneca understood this principle deeply. Despite managing enormous business responsibilities and political obligations, he wrote extensively about the danger of endless preparation without execution. He observed, "Nothing, to my way of thinking, is a better proof of a well-ordered mind than a man's ability to stop just where he is and pass some time in his own company." But he also knew that contemplation without action leads to paralysis rather than wisdom. Here's how to implement this habit starting immediately. Throughout your day, notice when you catch yourself thinking about something you should do or want to start. Instead of adding it to a mental or written list for someday, ask yourself, what's the smallest possible step I could take toward this right now? Then take that step immediately. Maybe you've been thinking about improving your relationship with your sister in Phoenix. Instead of waiting for the right time to have a meaningful conversation, send her a text message today asking how she's doing. Perhaps you've been considering learning Spanish for years. Instead of researching the perfect language program, download a language app right now and complete the first lesson. The power of this approach lies in how it breaks the psychological barriers that keep people stuck. When you think about starting a fitness routine, it feels overwhelming. When you think about doing 10 push-ups right now, it feels manageable. Once you've done those 10 push-ups, you've broken the inertia and created momentum toward your larger goal. Marcus Aurelius practiced this habit even in the most challenging circumstances. While dealing with military campaigns, political crises, and personal losses, he would identify what needed to be done and take immediate action rather than waiting for better conditions. He wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." When facing difficult people or situations, he would immediately choose to respond with virtue rather than postponing his choice to act wisely. This habit becomes especially crucial when dealing with uncomfortable but necessary actions. Having difficult conversations, addressing health concerns, making financial changes, or confronting relationship issues. These are the areas where procrastination causes the most damage to our lives. The longer you wait, the more anxiety builds around the task and the more complicated the situation becomes. The ancient Stoics also understood that procrastination is often rooted in perfectionism, the belief that you need ideal conditions, complete knowledge, or perfect emotional readiness before taking action. But they knew that life rarely provides perfect conditions, and waiting for them is a guaranteed way to miss opportunities and remain stuck in unsatisfying circumstances. This doesn't mean being reckless or impulsive. The Stoics valued careful thought and wise planning, but they distinguished between productive planning that leads to action and endless preparation that becomes a sophisticated form of avoidance. True wisdom means taking thoughtful action with incomplete information rather than endless analysis that never leads to movement. The habit also creates a profound shift in your relationship with time. Instead of treating today as preparation for real life that will begin tomorrow, you start treating today as your actual life that deserves your full engagement and best efforts. With this foundation of immediate action established as a daily practice, we can now explore the final habit that will free you from the weight of past regrets and disappointments. Habit 8. Practice letting go of yesterday's burdens. Picture yourself lying awake at 2 a.m. in your bedroom in Los Angeles, replaying a conversation from 5 years ago where you said something embarrassing. Or maybe you're driving to work in Dallas, still feeling angry about how your former business partner treated you 3 years ago. Perhaps you're having coffee with friends in Philadelphia, but you're mentally rehashing a decision you made last month that didn't turn out as planned. If this sounds familiar, you're carrying yesterday's burdens into today's opportunities, and it's costing you more than you realize. This is exactly why the ancient Stoics developed their final transformative habit, practicing the daily release of past grievances, regrets, and disappointments that serve no purpose except to steal your peace and energy from the present moment. They understood that holding on to the past doesn't change what happened. It only prevents you from fully engaging with what's happening now and what's possible tomorrow. The habit works through a simple but profound daily practice. Each evening, before going to sleep, identify anything from your past that you're still carrying emotionally, any resentment, regret, embarrassment, or disappointment that you've been mentally revisiting. Then consciously choose to release it, not because the past doesn't matter, but because carrying it forward serves no constructive purpose. Epictetus, who understood suffering intimately from his years as a slave, taught that we suffer not from past events themselves, but from our continued thoughts and feelings about those events. He said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This insight reveals that most of our ongoing pain comes not from original wounds, but from repeatedly reopening those wounds through mental repetition. The power of this practice becomes clear when you consider how much mental and emotional energy you spend on things that are completely finished and unchangeable. Every moment you spend feeling angry about yesterday's injustice is a moment unavailable for today's opportunities. Every hour you spend regretting past decisions is an hour stolen from making better decisions right now. Consider Rachel, a marketing director in Chicago who spent 2 years feeling bitter about being passed over for a promotion that went to someone she considered less qualified. She would lie awake at night imagining what she should have said differently in her interview. She would feel resentful during team meetings when she had to work with her former competitor. She analyzed the decision endlessly, looking for evidence that politics rather than merit had determined the outcome. This mental obsession was consuming enormous energy that could have been directed toward excelling in her current role or exploring other opportunities. When she finally implemented this Stoic practice, asking herself each evening, "What am I carrying from the past that no longer serves me?" she realized how much the promotion disappointment was limiting her present effectiveness and future possibilities. The shift was immediate and dramatic. Instead of spending mental energy on past grievances, she focused entirely on demonstrating her capabilities in her current position. She stopped seeing her colleague as a competitor and started treating him as a teammate. Within 8 months, she was offered an even better position at another company, an opportunity that came specifically because her positive attitude and excellent work had been noticed by industry contacts. Marcus Aurelius practiced this habit religiously, even while dealing with betrayals, military defeats, and personal losses that would devastate most people. In his private journal, he would remind himself, "Confine yourself to the present." He understood that carrying emotional baggage from past events made him less effective as a leader and less present as a human being. The practice doesn't mean pretending that painful events didn't happen or that they weren't significant. It means acknowledging what occurred, learning whatever lessons are available, and then releasing the emotional charge around those events so they stop controlling your present experience. Here's how to implement this habit starting tonight. Before going to sleep, spend 5 minutes scanning your mind for anything from the past that still triggers negative emotions when you think about it. Maybe it's a relationship that ended badly, a business failure, a family conflict, or a personal mistake. Ask yourself, is holding on to this feeling helping me in any way? Is it making me a better person, improving my relationships, or creating better outcomes? The honest answer is almost always no. Carrying resentment doesn't punish the people who hurt you, it only punishes you. Replaying regrets doesn't change past decisions. It only prevents you from making better decisions going forward. Holding on to embarrassment doesn't protect you from future mistakes. It only makes you more self-conscious and less willing to take beneficial risks. Seneca, who faced exile, political persecution, and business losses throughout his life, discovered that this practice of daily emotional release was essential for maintaining both mental clarity and emotional resilience. He wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. You can't fully embrace new opportunities while you're still emotionally invested in past disappointments." The ancient Stoics developed specific techniques for this practice. One approach involves imagining yourself literally setting down heavy bags that represent past burdens. Another technique involves writing down persistent regrets or resentments on paper, then safely burning or burying them as a symbol of release. Some people find it helpful to have an imaginary conversation with someone who hurt them, expressing their feelings fully and then choosing to forgive for their own peace rather than for the other person's benefit. This doesn't mean becoming naive or failing to learn from experience. The Stoics valued wisdom gained through both success and failure, but they distinguished between extracting useful lessons from the past and remaining emotionally imprisoned by past events. You can remember what happened without carrying the emotional weight of what happened. The practice becomes especially powerful when dealing with self-forgiveness. Many people carry guilt and shame about their own past mistakes for years or even decades after the events occurred. This ongoing self-punishment serves no constructive purpose. It doesn't undo the mistake, help the people who were affected, or prevent future errors. It only diminishes your capacity to contribute positively in the present. The beautiful result of this daily practice is that you wake up each morning with full access to your emotional and mental resources. Instead of carrying a heavy backpack filled with yesterday's disappointments, you start each day with the lightness and energy needed to fully engage with today's possibilities and challenges. In essence, this habit teaches you to treat each day as a fresh beginning rather than a continuation of past dramas. It allows you to show up fully to your relationships, work, and personal growth without the interference of old grievances and regrets. The transformation journey you've just experienced reveals something remarkable. True change doesn't require dramatic life overhauls or perfect conditions. It comes through the daily practice of 8 simple but powerful habits that ancient philosophers used to build unshakable character and genuine fulfillment. Think about where you were when you started this video, perhaps feeling overwhelmed by anxiety, frustrated by your performance, controlled by bad habits, resistant to change, unclear about your values, dependent on others' approval, stuck in procrastination, or weighed down by past burdens. Now you have 8 specific practices that can transform each of these challenges into sources of strength. These aren't just ideas to consider, they're tools to use immediately. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, you can ask yourself what you control versus what you don't control. Before starting any task, you can pause and commit to giving your best effort. When faced with temptation or procrastination, you can give yourself a clear command and follow it immediately. Each habit builds upon the others, creating a comprehensive system for mental transformation. The ancient Stoics discovered that consistency matters more than perfection. Marcus Aurelius didn't transform into a philosopher-emperor overnight. Epictetus didn't achieve inner freedom instantly. Seneca didn't develop wisdom without making mistakes along the way. They became extraordinary through the daily practice of ordinary habits applied with extraordinary consistency. Start with just one habit that resonates most strongly with you right now. Maybe it's the morning practice of separating controllable from uncontrollable factors, or the evening routine of releasing yesterday's burdens. Practice that single habit for 1 week. Notice the changes it creates, then add another. Within 2 months, you'll have integrated all 8 practices into a natural daily rhythm that transforms how you experience life. Remember, every master was once a beginner. Every expert was once an amateur. Every influential person was once unknown. The difference isn't talent, luck, or circumstances. It's the willingness to practice proven principles consistently over time. These 8 habits have guided countless individuals through wars, plagues, political upheavals, personal losses, and everyday challenges for over 2,000 years. They work because they're based on fundamental truths about human nature and the structure of reality itself. They'll work for you too if you apply them. Your journey toward unshakable inner strength and genuine fulfillment starts right now, with your very next decision. Will you choose to implement these practices? Or will you let this knowledge remain just another interesting video you watched? If these 8 habits have inspired you to take action, please subscribe to the Stoic Vivu channel so you never miss our latest insights on applying ancient wisdom to modern life. Hit the like button if this content has been valuable to you, and share this video with anyone who could benefit from these life-changing practices. The Stoics believed that wisdom shared is wisdom multiplied. By spreading these timeless principles, you're not just transforming your own life, you're contributing to a community of people committed to living with greater purpose, resilience, and fulfillment. Your transformation begins today. Let's build something extraordinary together.